We're in the month of March, and we start to think about March. We think about basketball. We think about the tournaments. We think about the MAC tournament, the women's Final Four, and, of course, big games going on at the Q nonstop. And who better to talk about that than the CEO over at the Cavs, over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, Nic Barlage, with us today. If you've been to any games, you always see him. He's a mover and shaker. He's always shaking hands and kissing babies. What's up, Nick?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. It's great to join you this morning.
Yeah, and obviously your rise to prominence within this organization and to be one of the right-hand man, is that something I can call you when it comes to Dan Gilbert, who everybody saw courtside for that Knicks game the other night?
Yeah, I would prefer to say that I support everybody at the arena and that works around us, and Dan and I work closely together. He is an incredible visionary. And I'm fortunate to be able to be a part of what we do at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and across our family of companies.
I do want to know, just as a side issue, because Dan's name is somebody that when he bought the team, his everything he did, it was splash worthy. It was building the Cavs up to prominence again. It certainly helped that LeBron was there, and because of his recent issues and his health situation. He's somebody that has been a little more in the back seat, which we were not used to when it came to Dan Gilbert. But they showed him at the Knicks game, and it was patented, trademark Dan Gilbert. He was on his phone texting, which I was hoping that maybe you were not on the other side of one of those texts.
I can tell you I was not. And I would just tell you that look, Dan is ultimately the heartbeat of everything that we do. He is still at the core of all the things we try to do, whether it's relative to fan experience, whether it's trying to put a championship product on the court, or it's the work in the community. Dan is still, once again, kind of setting the North Star for the organization and for the franchise, and for all of our franchises now, and kind of our portfolio of assets, of sports and entertainment assets. And even though you may not see him as much, I can tell you his impact is still profound. And the resources that he allows us to deploy to compete, not just on the floor, but in the community, are still ever present. And they're going to continue to be present. And I think the unique thing is he's owned the team almost for 2 decades now, believe it or not. And it kind of feels like we're just getting started.
I want to ask you a couple of things later on about business. We'll set sail with that, with the women's Final Four, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, television rights, the whole deal. I want to know more about you. So how old are you?
I'm turning the corner on 4 decades of life. So,
and you went to St. John's up in Minnesota, which
that's right.
The first thing I said to you was big football school. You played basketball there, right?
That's right. I was not good enough to play football there, and our basketball team was aspiring while I was there, which is why I think I was able to play.
What did you average a game?
I was somewhere in like the 10 to 15 range, depending on.
It's more than Stephen A. Smith.
It's more than Skip Bayless.
Yeah. It was a great experience. I'll tell you what, great experience, great school.
So, what's your biography to lead you to Cleveland and with the Cavaliers and again the family of companies?
Yeah, I mean, just very quickly because we have so many great things going on across our team. I started off selling tickets out of a box office. I actually started in minor league baseball. As an intern, and then as part of a 2-man crew that ran a Northwoods Collegiate Wood Bat team in northern Minnesota. And then I started selling tickets out of a box office in Phoenix for the Suns, and kind of worked my way up. And I've been fortunate enough to work for the Suns twice and for the Cavs twice. And I would tell you, my wife and I really feel like Cleveland is home for us. We've got 2 young girls, and we love the community here in Northeast Ohio. We love the people. We love the fabric of all the things that we do. And so it's been a great ride, but looking forward to, as I said earlier, it kind of feels like we're just getting started.
Well, the buzz in that building has certainly seemed like it has been back. Our listeners, the season ticket holders, they are re-engaged. Football season is over. It's now basketball. And as of right now, doing this interview, the Cavs have slipped 1 spot from the 2 to the 3 seed. There's so much basketball left to be played. And obviously a hallmark game tonight. You've had these nationally televised games recently. Other games moved. How would you evaluate right now where the fan base, where your customers are with this team right now in the excitement levels?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is we still have to remember we're one of the youngest teams in the NBA. We've had this kind of meteoric rise over the last 3 years, starting with the play-in, and then obviously being able to consummate the trade to get Donovan to come here at the beginning of last season. 50 wins last year. Obviously, last year did not end the way we wanted it to end. And then, as we were coming out of the turn of the calendar year and pushing towards the All-Star break, winning 18 of 20, we feel like we're in a great spot. We really do. We've got a young team. They care about each other. You guys have been around them a little bit, people that see them in the community. It's the most connected group of guys we've had in a really long time. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of them started here together. A lot of them have grown together. A lot of them are developing every single day. And so we think our best basketball is still in front of us, quite frankly. But at the same time, we realize we have in professional sports, it's a zero-sum game. And so you're judged off your wins and your losses, and you're judged off of how long your season goes. And so for us, we want to live in the moment. We want to learn from the moment, and we want to continue to grow and develop every single day.
You've had to hit a moving target basically from the build from after LeBron left to where you are at now. How does that adjust from year to year, where attendance, ratings mix in with expectations? I mean, last year, over the last couple of years, play-in team, playoff team. Now some people are expecting more.
Yeah, look, I'm not to nerd out here too much with you, but I think we learned a lot from our last run, going to 4 straight NBA finals. You learn a lot about the business. You learn a lot about the community. One of the things we noticed coming out of that last run was we really wanted to make sure that our brand and our business was so much more accessible to the community. We wanted to make sure, and so what we did is we kind of pivoted a lot of our strategies to make sure that we have more tickets available, for instance, for all of our home games, no matter what game it may be. We have more tickets. We have almost 32% of our tickets can be accessible at any given night at the start of every single season. And so we wanted to once again make our brand and our business more accessible to Northeast Ohio. We wanted to make sure that we were attracting fans of all demographics so that we could grow affinity of Cavaliers basketball into the future generations that live, work, and play here in Northeast Ohio. And so the great thing is with this young group, a lot of people bought in sooner. And we've been able to really make the most of that momentum.
Do you happen to see a younger fan in Cleveland that maybe is more basketball oriented instead of maybe football or baseball oriented?
I can't speak to football or baseball just because we don't own a team in that. But I will tell you, the NBA fan, our fan skews younger. I'd say almost 2/3 of our fan skews under the age of 35. In general, social dynamics, our Cavs United member, as you mentioned earlier, it skews somewhere more in the 45 to 55 range. But we do see our fan base continue to get younger and younger. And then the other thing I'd say is we have a Cavs Academy. It's our youth program. We will have almost 60,000 kids participate in that program all throughout the state of Ohio this upcoming summer. That's a big point of pride for us because it helps get kids out, helps them be active, and it helps grow their affinity for Cavs basketball from a very early age.
Nic Barlage, CEO with the Cavs, joining us right now in our performance studio. As a basketball fan, I've been a diehard Cavs guy, NBA guy my whole life. I pay attention. I look at all the box scores every morning. It hurts me to see some of the negativity that, especially during All-Star Weekend, almost worked to a crescendo that everybody wanted to dump on the league. Are you finding your customers? Are you finding any difficulty with your partners in that way? Or do you feel that is a narrative that doesn't really come close to reaching reality for your fan base?
Yeah, look, I think All-Star Weekend is one of those tent poles, and I don't want to speak for our commissioner, Adam Silver, who, by the way, I think is doing an incredible job. It's one of those tent poles that we've reimagined, and we're going to have to continue to reimagine to make sure that it stays sticky and salient with the fan bases. I don't think anybody was expecting a 200-plus point output on Sunday, and so we'll continue to evaluate that. The thing I would say, though, is if you look past All-Star and you look at things like the participation metrics they put in place, now having players have to participate in 65 games this year in order to achieve postseason awards, we're in the midst. Last year, it was the most competitive season on record in 36 years in the NBA. This year, the metrics are all charting in a very similar fashion. When you look at offensive output, defensive point differential, some of these things that we study to really garner and focus on the competitiveness and the value proposition of the NBA. And so I don't want to look past those things. We just got through a brand new CBA, which guarantees us labor peace for basically the next decade. All those things are paramount in making sure that the game continues to grow and we continue to realize the momentum that we've seen. And so, yes, I would say All-Star will continue to think about how the engineering of it all comes together. But the game is in such a great place. The league is in such a great place. And our commissioner is owed a lot of credit to that because he's always trying to think about what's next.
But there seems to be this negativity about the length of the regular season, the fact that there's load management in the league. Unfortunately, tonight, nationally televised game, Donovan Mitchell is not going to play, but it's not because of load management. I mean, he got a PRP injection. So it'll be used, though, by somebody. We'll say, well, Donovan Mitchell only played in so many games this year, and fans are paying these exceedingly high ticket prices or premium pricing when a big team comes to town. What would your response be to any of those who are, naysayers towards that NBA regular season experience?
Yeah, look, we're always going to have, there's always going to be feedback that covers the spectrum, right? And the thing I would say specifically about Donovan, we're always going to prioritize the short-term and the long-term health of our players, above anything else. And by the way, we're going to always prioritize the short-term and long-term health of our team members within our organization. We want to prioritize the short-term and long-term health of our community. So all those things I think are really important. And so, which is ultimately why we decided to make sure that Donovan was taken care of before we get into the core of a postseason push. And so that's ultimately why you see those certain things. You can never predict predict someone's health at the end of the day. And so that's the hard part about all this.
I got PRP in the shoulder. He'll be fine.
All right. But I will say this. I go back to it. Like the league, when you study this, the league's we have never been in this competitive of a scenario. Scoring, I think, is through the roof. You're seeing defenses catch up to that as well. You also are seeing the league. And Joe Dumars came out and said this a week or two ago, where we're going to continue to evaluate the rules. We're going to continue to make sure that we're putting the best product we can on the floor. I give the league a lot of credit, and I go back to the CBA, which was really profound when you study it, between tax aprons and what it did for parity in the league, what it did to kind of level set resources between all markets of all teams. And then I go back to the participation threshold of 65 games. You're going to see a better NBA because of all the measures and all the measures they've taken to ultimately protect the value proposition of the regular season, which is so important to all of us. And I would say this, and I think because I've heard Joe say this before, we continue to aspire and continue to build towards being an 82-game league. We think that's very important.
Nic Barlage joining us, Cleveland Cavaliers CEO. So, you talk big picture about the league. That one of the terms that I've hated hearing, and first time I heard it was about 6-7 years ago, about the NBA being a traveling road show, where in certain cities they're going to show up to see certain athletes play, and that's normal for a lot of sports. What do you do to fight back to get the message out there to come see the Cavs and not see? It might be a little easier now when you have Donovan, Evan, a couple other guys. Mm-hmm. But what do you do to make sure everybody comes to see the Cavs and not the Clippers when you got Paul George coming to town, if he's going to play, things like that? What do you do?
Yeah, we were just talking before we went on. Look, let's not underestimate how amazing our community is in Northeast Ohio. You guys have already talked before about being a lifelong Cavs fan. We have some of the best damn fans in the world for all of our sports, whether it's for the Browns, the Guardians, and for the Cavaliers. We started a marketing campaign 3 years ago now. It's very simple. It's called Let Them Know. And it's our goal to let people know that we want to be and will be a force to be reckoned with. Does that mean what does that mean ultimately at the end of the day? We're still manifesting that. We're still telling that story. But it's our goal every single day to be respectful, to be humble, and to ultimately be focused on how we can garner the attention of our fans. And I think you've seen a lot of it. Look, we've been fortunate enough to sell out of 85 consecutive games at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And by the way, we haven't been in an NBA Finals in 7 years or 6 years, depending on how you count in the calendar. And so we still have a road in front of us, a journey in front of us. But I want to be clear, like, we shouldn't underestimate the passion, the care, and the intention of the fans and the people we have here in Northeast Ohio, because we got some of the best fans in the world. And so what we want to do is bottle that up, and we want to take it to the world. We want to take it to Paris like we did earlier this year when we played a home game in Paris, France in the third week of January. We want to take it to Brazil. We were working on a bunch of efforts to grow our brand and our business there. And we want to earn the respect of the rest of the country. And by the way, I think Kobe and JB are doing a heck of a job of that and assembling a group of Donovan Mitchell all the way through to Sam Merrill, quite frankly. It's an exciting team that has its best days in front of it.
One thing that we got to hit on, because fans talk to us like they talk to you. They want to know, will the Cavs be available on free TV or in some format that makes it as accessible as humanly possible to the people of Northeast Ohio next year?
It's a great question. We're beta testing 5 games with Gray Television, WOIO Channel 43. We're beta testing 5 games this season to see what that is. Ultimately, we still have a great relationship with Diamond Sports and Bally's, and so we are kind of consistently evaluating that. Obviously, they're in a little bit of a difficult situation with the bankruptcy that they're working through. Those things are very fluid. They're very dynamic. The thing I will promise to all of the fans, we are continuing to aggressively pursue having the greatest accessibility of our games on television, radio, and for people to attend at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. That is not going to change. What it means is still going to be authored here as we go forward into the future, because these things are, as I said, very dynamic processes that are being worked through. And our partners at Diamond and Bally's have been great partners of ours for 20 plus years. We can't forget some of those things. Even though they've fallen on hard times, we want to make sure that we're being great partners and trying to help them into the next stages of their future. But all those things are still going to be determined here, I think, as we evolve.
What do we expect from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland hosting the women's Final Four coming up here soon? I
said this the other day. I think the market is finally – I shouldn't say this. I think the market is understanding that it's here. We are, basically less than 30 days away at this point. This is a supernova of a sporting event. When you look at the attention that Caitlin Clark is getting, there's a bunch of stats. I won't bore you with all of them because I kind of nerd out on these things. But last year, the women's Final Four, the ticket prices versus the men's Final Four was something like 40% more. Now, it's smaller venues, and I get all some of these other things that people could say that they're different. But the value behind the women's game has never been stronger. And if you could just fast forward and dream about having a Caitlin Clark in Iowa here, an Angel Reese in LSU, a Dawn Staley in South Carolina, I mean, it will create this spectacle that I think maybe that doesn't quite rival an NBA All-Star game like we saw in 2022, but gets pretty darn close. And we should be prideful about that. And the thing I think that's incredible about that too is we have become a big event city, and we've become a big event city that's a destination for these sporting events, whether it's MLB All-Star Game, NBA All-Star Game, NFL Draft, now Women's Final Four. The great thing about this sporting event, though, is it highlights and it amplifies women's sports, which ourselves as a region, we have to continue to do more of that. I think that's an important thing that's kind of missing in our sports ecosystem right now, and we can't wait to get it started. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes or maybe Ohio State end up in the Final Four, South Carolina, who knows? They're going to be hitting you up for tickets big time. Could be one of the hottest tickets in town in recent memory.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Nic Barlage, CEO of the Cavs. You talk about someone on a meteoric rise within the Cavs and within that family over there, Rock Entertainment. We appreciate you coming out. We got to do this again, especially once the playoffs start.
That's right. That's right. My calendar will open for your calendar. Put it that way, guys.
Nic, thanks for joining us, bud.
I appreciate it. Thank you both.